Hi, my name's Harry Lightman, and I'm a licensed psychologist here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And for those of you who are coming back again, thank you. And those who are joining us for the first time, welcome. Those of you who have been with me know my shtick. We're on a mission here. We must get out of this terrible emotional mess that is tearing our country apart. It's not tied to political issue or issues. It's long-standing issues, multiple issues. And our best way out of this mess, though, is not to focus on politics or personalities, but to focus on our children and grandchildren. If we can focus on their health and development, we'll find common ground and we will find our way out of this mess. So if you accept the premise of focusing on our kids' development and health, then we have to think about what is the cornerstone of any notion of development, and it has to be reality. So we're going to start with that. And I've spent the last couple of videos talking about and defining elements of reality. Now I'm moving into actual cases of my own caseload to demonstrate the value of standing up for reality and the consequences of when we don't. Now, this reality goes way back in my career, but is tied to a hugely important event in my life, which was the 10 summers I spent with my older brother Hugh up at a intensive residential program for kids during the summer up in Windsor, New Hampshire, titled or called Wadiko or Camp Wadiko. I would spend 10 summers up there with my brother, and the person we could talk about, Wilson Rawlings, spent 5. I made my appearance at Wadiko in 1972, and Wilson made his first appearance in 1978 at the age of 8. And even though this program is an inpatient service, which the kids call a camp, as they should, because it's intended to provide fun as they learn how to change and become more adaptive in their functioning. By any standard, Wilson was a profoundly troubled child at that time. The next year, he would be, in effect, become the poster boy for Wadiko when Time magazine it featured an article on Wadiko in its August edition. And in this picture, it shows Wilson with his therapist, Todd. Now, Todd would transfer the case to me the following year in October 1979. And so for approximately the next 45 years, Wilson and I would work together on and off. And Wilson and I would meet weekly, both in the context of individual work and family work for years. But the part of Wilson's and my story I really want to focus on for the purpose of this video starts in early 1982 when Wilson and his families befriend a very important, highly regarded psychologist, Roy Heath, through their church. Now, unbeknownst to me at the time, Rob Wilson joins um, Dr. Heath's group that he has formed for kind of like needy kids within the church. I learn of Wilson and Dr. Heath's relationship for the first time later that year, or maybe in early 1983. And even though I won't dignify Dr. Heath with a picture of him, I will show a picture of his book, which it conveys both stature and standing. That book, even though I did not know Dr. Heath, I certainly just when Mr. Rawlings gave me a copy of that book instantly gave him credibility because of who had written the foreword to that book, which is David Reisman, a renowned sociologist who himself had written a well-received book titled The Lonely Crowd. But in that very same meeting when Mr. Rawlings is alerting me to this involvement of the church group, he also alerts me to an unsettling event involving Wilson and Dr. Heath, in which um, Wilson had told his dad he had observed Dr. Heath urinating in a bathroom in Dr. Heath's house. So I followed up with a phone call with Dr. Heath. In that phone call, Dr. Heath was profoundly apologetic. And additionally, so once I had profiled this exceptionally fragile child with a severely extensive psychiatric history, which involved both highly sexualized impulses and actions. And what came out of that meeting, aside from a very reasonable explanation for what had happened, was an agreement that at no time would Dr. Heath ever introduce conversations involving sex with Wilson or engage in any activity that might have any sexual content, given Wilson's fragility. Now, cut to the evening of March 30th, 1984. And this is during a family meeting. Um, my co-therapist is really a gifted colleague and friend, Bruce Bertner. And Bruce and I are conducting this meeting, and Wilson's brother, Sam, starts to articulate a whole sequence of inappropriate sexualized behaviors by Dr. Heath with this group of friends. And Wilson initially balks, but then actually confirms and elaborates on these events. And and the parents are understandably very upset and confused. And Bruce and I are very clear after a brief recess. We literally stopped the meeting to talk about what is our plan going forward. And we agree we're going to, in line with the protocol of the day, we're going to file a complaint with the local police after the meeting, which we do. Now, going forward that evening, maybe an hour later, so approximating 9 o'clock at night on that same day, March 30th, 1984, we uh, go to the local police station, write out our complaint, and go to the desk sergeant to turn it in, at which point he refuses to accept it, saying, "We know Dr. Heath, but not in the way you say." So he actually encourages us to go gather more evidence and come back. Bruce and I, again, briefly conferred and agreed we would not leave that police station until the complaint was accepted. So it was in standoff involving hours, at which point, only after there was a conversation between the local police department and the superintendent of schools was our complaint accepted. Now, something that seemed so obvious to me now was not understood then, which was it was not a rush at all to gather information and evidence to either rule in or rule out these terrible accusations. To the contrary, local police notified Dr. Heath of, of our complaint, but took no initiative to explore its credibility. Um, and and at the same time, incredible pressure was brought to bear on the Rawlings to withdraw the complaint. Mr. Rawlings actually made a formal request to me, which I declined. But what I had done in the meanwhile was reach out to the Massachusetts Psychological Association, which, to their credit, said we'll support you if wherever the facts take us. And then Bruce had done a wonderful job of working with the assistant district attorney for the community affected. So that was that. Then, reluctantly, um, Mr. Rawlings finally says, I will file a complaint myself, but only if there is another complaint on record from someone in the community. And to our knowledge, there was not one, but we encouraged him to file the complaint anyway. And, in more difficult cases, there's always an element of luck in my experience. And boy, was luck on our side here because when Mr. Rawlings went to file his complaint, it's true there were no other active complaints, but there had been a complaint that had been filed years ago by one of the town physicians that later was withdrawn, but the complaint stayed for some reason in the file. So that gave Mr. Will Rawlings um, uh, faith that he was on the correct path. So then uh, intervals of time move pretty quickly here, where uh, Dr. Heath contacts me um, saying, I'll be found innocent because your client is crazy. And then that occurs, I believe, in November. And then by December, after other families had come forward, Dr. Heath pleads guilty to all charges. Six families had come forward, I believe, but many other families had been involved. Dr. Heath is given a sentence of 5 years of probation, and he's not taken to court because we don't want to traumatize the kids again. Um, but there is a startling revelation that comes out at the time of his sentencing, which is, if you remember, Dr. Heath had organized this group of friends, quote unquote, for needy kids through his church. And at this time, it became known that the minister of that church, his own grandson, had been molested and abused by Dr. Heath, and the minister had not taken any action. So, what is my takeaway from this grim story, but that has a happy ending in terms of a bad guy whistled to the sideline? There are many. And that is, I do come away with the notion that most of us do believe and honor the importance of reality and want to uphold it. But there are some of us who can be swayed away from upholding reality by individuals that we give credibility and stature to. And these people take advantage of that stature by stating things that are not true or misinformation or plain out lies, just in a convincing and confident and forceful way. The other takeaway is that standing for reality is generally a group process. But as we gather in numbers, if we can stay calm and use facts and not tear at each other and let facts prevail, then reality will regain its footing we all are in a better place. And then the final takeaway is I think there are cowards in moments where we need to stand up for reality. And I think the cowards in this story are both the minister and the physician who both knew of Dr. Heath's terrible behavior and took no action at all. And in the case of the physician, this had occurred. Dr. Heath inappropriateness had been brought to his concern years ago. So there are cowards among us, but I think even cowards can gain some spine when we work as a group. But again, we must stay calm. We must stay on facts. We must be respectful of each other as we find ourselves to a better place. So thank you. Let's keep at this. Please, please keep at it. Be calm and support the growth and development of your children and grandchildren.